Waitress brings soup to an old man, then he hands her a card with only one word. Ere the soup trembled in the waitress's hands as she carried it across the diner, steam rising like a fragile promise, because something about the old man sitting alone by the window felt heavier than hunger, heavier than age, as if the weight of an unfinished life was quietly waiting for her to notice it. His coat was too thin for winter, his hands shook not from cold but from time itself, and his eyes carried a tired stillness that made her slow her steps without knowing why. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of good intentions, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the Thread of Kindness, where stories remind us that compassion can change everything. She was called Mira, a young waitress who worked double shifts at the roadside diner because rent never waited and dreams didn't pay bills. Her life had narrowed into routines of wiping tables, refilling cups, and smiling through exhaustion. Each day felt like standing in place while the world rushed past her, and yet she still carried a softness that hardship hadn't crushed. That afternoon, business was slow, the kind of slow that made loneliness louder. The old man had been sitting there for hours, ordering nothing but a glass of hot water, staring out at passing cars, as if counting the years he no longer owned. When Mira finally brought him a bowl of soup on the house, she told herself it was just because it would be thrown out anyway, but deep down she knew it was something else, something human and instinctive. The man looked at the soup as though it were a memory rather than food. He ate slowly, carefully, with gratitude written into every movement. Mira noticed the way his hands hovered over the bowl, as if afraid it might disappear, and the way his eyes followed her whenever she passed, not with need, but with recognition. She felt an odd pull toward him, like a thread tying her to a story she hadn't heard yet. When he finished, he reached into his worn coat and pulled out a small, clean card that looked strangely out of place among the frayed fabric. He slid it across the table toward her with deliberate care. The card had only one word printed on it, stark and heavy, the kind of word that could collapse a life or rebuild it entirely: Heir. Mira stood frozen, confusion and unease colliding inside her. She thought it was a joke, or perhaps a mistake meant for someone else, but the old man's expression was calm, resolved, as if he had finally put something down after carrying it for decades. Before she could ask anything, he slowly rose, left a few crumpled bills beside the empty bowl, and walked out into the fading afternoon, leaving behind the soup bowl the card, and a silence that felt too deliberate to ignore. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. The word followed her everywhere, echoing in her thoughts while she scrubbed dishes and counted tips. She tried to convince herself it meant nothing, that the man was confused or lonely or playing some strange game. Yet the card felt real in her pocket, heavier than paper should be. When she finally examined it closely, she noticed a discreet emblem pressed into the corner, something refined and expensive, something that didn't belong in a roadside diner any more than the man's calm certainty did. Days later, after restless nights and endless doubts, Mira followed the address embossed faintly on the back of the card. It led her to a quiet office building far from the noise of highways and diners. Inside, she learned that the old man was Elias Rowan, a reclusive industrialist who had vanished from public life years ago after selling his empire and cutting ties with nearly everyone. He had no children, no close family, and a past shaped by regret rather than legacy. What he did have was a carefully prepared will, one that named a single heir chosen not by blood, but by character. Elias had spent his final years watching people from the shadows, searching not for brilliance or ambition, but for kindness without witnesses. He had seen Mira weeks before that day, noticed the way she treated customers who couldn't afford much, how she never rushed the lonely or ignored the invisible. The soup was not the reason for his choice, it was only the confirmation. By the time Mira understood this, she also learned that Elias had passed away quietly 2 nights after their encounter, leaving no opportunity for explanations or goodbyes. The inheritance was overwhelming, not just in wealth but in responsibility. Mira faced suspicion, legal challenges, and the crushing fear that she didn't deserve any of it. There were days she wanted to run back to the safety of anonymity, to the simplicity of earning just enough and expecting nothing more. But slowly, something inside her shifted. She realized that Elias had not handed her a reward. He had handed her a test. The word heir was not about ownership, but about continuation. Mira chose to honor the life that had seen her when no one else did. She invested in shelters, funded community kitchens, and quietly paid medical bills for strangers who reminded her of the old man by the window. She kept working at the diner part-time, not because she had to, but because she never wanted to forget where kindness was most needed. People began to notice, not her wealth, but her consistency, the way she showed up again and again without cameras or speeches. Just before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment below and share what the word kindness means to you, or a moment when a small act changed your life. Your stories matter more than you know. Years later, on a winter afternoon, Mira placed a bowl of soup in front of another forgotten soul, watching steam rise like hope once did for her. She finally understood that some inheritances are not meant to be kept, only passed on. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that small actions can echo louder than power or wealth, please like, share, and engage with this video so more people can feel this message. Subscribe to the thread of kindness, because sometimes all it takes to change a life is a single word, carried gently across a table.